Hi, everyone, and welcome to one more episode of What If You Live to Be 100. In earlier episodes, I have mentioned, and even otherwise, we all recognize that besides everything else that we have talked about, whether it's about money and health and social relationships and where to live, there is one more factor which is of great importance to us at this stage of life, especially in the era that we live in. Think about it. You put together a nice retirement corpus for yourself. You reckon that that should be something safe and you'll be good for the rest of your life. And yet, every day morning, literally, you open the newspapers and you catch stories about people getting swindled due to some or the other kind of digital fraud, cyber attack, etc. And while we can secure our homes better, we can put our money into safe deposit vaults in banks and whatnot. This is one area which we are not sure how to help ourselves. Right? We find ourselves in significant vulnerability and the fear that what if suddenly someday we also get entrapped and lose a whole lot of money, besides all the stress that it brings. So, to address this very important topic for people in this generation of 50 to 65, we have today an eminent expert with rich experience in this space who is going to help us, with some guidance, some tips, demystify some concepts that we might not be aware of. And I think it's going to be very, very relevant and very useful. So, with those words, I welcome to this episode Mr. Prathmesh Churi. Welcome, Prathmesh. To give you a little background, Prathmesh has been in academics earlier. So he was a professor at NMIMS, and where he was teaching the subject of information security to engineering students. And in more recent times, he has moved to industry from academia, and he's currently in an organization where he's chief of staff, information security, and also in charge of data protection. Besides that, he is part of a committee called LITD 17, which is a Government of India committee made to try and lay out framework and policies related to information security, data standards, etc. So, extremely important committee which will kind of decide how government comes out with these frameworks. So, without doubt, he is the absolute right person with the perfect background and credentials and experience to help us on this very important subject. With those words, I would love to have Prathmesh tell a little bit more about him and also what kind of things he has been seeing when he's working in the industry and with people before we start some more questions.
So thank you so much for firstly for the very warm introduction, and accurately you have said about me on the cybersecurity and data protection side. And as you rightly said that I have shifted my whole career from academia to industry. Uh, what things I found in common is that the number of people that I actually make an awareness. Only when I was a teacher, that time I was teaching to student on the data security and privacy. So I am making them aware on this subject, and kind of a caution that I used to give, that what kind of a best practice that you should follow. And when I came to industry, actually I tell my customers, tell my consumers, and for that matter, tells my other team members who are non-information security and data privacy, people, especially from the people from the human resources for that matter, for marketing for that matter, or for the business for that matter. They may have a very less knowledge on that particular thing. So my job is also to make them aware what are the best information security practices. So only you can say my the target audience I have changed, but the awareness remains constant throughout my whole lifestyle and the lifetime that I actually perform. Apart from that, I have also been involved in the research part of the cybersecurity and data privacy.
Wow.
So I have around the 80 plus research papers on the same, and I have some of the books also on
Wow.
cybersecurity and data privacy.
Amazing.
So there also I learned one thing, that cybersecurity awareness is just not awareness for the people, those who do not have the knowledge of cybersecurity at the background or at the base, but it is also a required awareness for the organization who process the data of all of our Indian citizens.
Mhm.
So it is more like an awareness problem. I always, whenever I go to conference, whenever I go to round table talks, or whenever I go to some kind of, whenever I write an article, I always write, in cybersecurity or maybe for data protection matter, it's not just the compliance check. It's not just you have to take a very big tools or very high end security tools and infrastructure. It is just you to make aware of the, for the people, those who are using your application, those who are using your infrastructure. And I guess this podcast, by the itself, is the logic and the means of this podcast. Your target audiences are much more in the senior citizens, or maybe for the people those who have already aware the digital infrastructure, but how to make them aware to use the digital infrastructure and the tools responsibly
Mhm.
by keeping the cyber security in mind. That should be the real thing. So I guess my real actually target audience for today's podcast and my discussion should be of those people. So I'm very happy to be here in this podcast.
Absolutely, absolutely. So one thing, just to say in lighter vein,
Mm.
that we are focused to people in the 50 to 65 years of age,
Yes.
and somehow they don't like to be called senior, right? Because they are still
I'm so
in
sorry
that.
for that.
No, no, this is just in lighter vein. It doesn't matter. But so actually, having Prathmesh has obviously worked with very large organizations and enterprise. So I'm going to request him to kind of come down to more at a consumer level, which is what matters for all of us, right? So,
Yes.
and specifically again to elaborate that these are people, again, emphasize the typical age group, 50, 60s, something like that. So these are people who are not what we call digital natives. So when all of us were in school and growing up, maybe there was not so much of internet
Yeah,
and
correct.
all those the connectivity was not so much. But somewhere, especially for most of us, as we got into, let's say, late 20s, early 30s, or mid 30s, we started getting introduced into the internet at a fundamental level, and then of course email and all the other things which followed, the mobile connectivity and apps and everything, right? So we have migrated into the digital world and not being digital
Recently.
natives.
Mm.
But by this time now, as we are in that 50s and early 60s, most of us have been using all kinds of internet related services for a good 20 years or so.
Yeah.
So we have got comfortable. I wouldn't say that we are, like I said, we are not native, so we were not born with that. Our initial schooling and all didn't happen there. And I'm saying this because, as against the previous generation, our parents and all didn't get comfortable because they got into the internet, etc., at a much later age.
Correct.
So on the one side, there is this comfort, but on the other side, all of us, and I've been in the digital space for last more than 25 years.
Yes.
Can I honestly say that I feel safe? I don't. I feel vulnerable. That I don't know when something could go wrong. So, at the outset, can you tell, for people of this kind, what are the kind of risks or what are the kind of vulnerabilities we have today? So, at least we get a sense that where all things could be potentially going wrong or could go wrong, and what, before we get into solutions or into detail, but where are the different things where something could be going wrong?
So you just said that now, after some point of time, you said that, shall I feel safe, or can I say, can I have a benchmark or baselining where I will say that, can I feel safe? So answer to that question, uh, uh, if I very talk straightforwardly, in none of the generation, though it be the younger one or the elder one, okay, as long as the technology is going forward and technology has been transforming, the type of attack is also being changing.
Yes,
The mindset of the attacker is also changing.
correct.
So what attack was actually there 10 years back are not the attack being used now, because the solution to those attack or mitigation to those attack has already in place. So I guess this kind of a competition or this kind of question will remain valid even in the next generation.
Right.
That next generation will say that, will I be safe? You will never be safe.
Got it.
The moment I always tell to my target audiences, irrespective of the age, is that when you are giving your data to any digital platform, that digital platform gives you any kind of a comfort of security, either through its advertisement, or you are aware of that this particular digital platform where my data is safe. Ideally, you are raising a potential risk at that point of time the moment you are giving the data. So none of the age or none of the time you will feel that you are actually safe. But what you can do actually, you can minimize the risk, potential risk of your data breach or data leak, or for that matter, security risk. So that's my first very important advice to even the those who are watching this podcast is actually you cannot always say that I am 100% secure. I remember one of the quote, I don't remember the name of the person, but he said that security is a process. It's not a product.
True.
If you tell this is a product, then you will have its features, you will have its some USBs or something. But security is it's an ongoing process.
True.
After 5 years, 10 years, or maybe even the age of AI, generative AI, or maybe a quantum and everything, security will remain live. And security, in fact, I will say the efforts to put or implement security will be much more higher in the next generation.
Got it.
So that's the first thing.
So we recognize that, I don't think there's anything like perfectly secure environment in this kind of a world. So fair. That's out of the way, that you're never going to feel completely safe. But with all that, from a common user point of view, like as a user, what do we use? We use net banking. Some of us may still be in work and business, so we might use some GST portal or things like that. We of course access social media. We look at videos. We download stuff which comes through WhatsApp and whatnot. We click links. We use apps. We use UPI. Now, in all these, like, if you think of what are the big areas where we are particularly vulnerable, or rather where we should be, where something could go wrong. I mean, in this common usage, I mean, of course, there are bigger types of cyber attacks and all, but in typical common usage, which we can't help, right? These are things which we need for a day-to-day work. I mean, whether to pay somebody on UPI or to access our bank accounts on net banking and all that. In today's day, you can't live without doing those.
Correct.
So, in that daily use, which are the various a few things? I mean, the reality is that a subject like this, I mean, we could have a half day and we may not cover everything because it's so deep. So we are going to only talk about some of the big ones and the important ones. So what are those some of the important ones which you think?
Yeah, so basically you are talking about the hotspot areas where the common consumers or the common people should focus on. I would actually say the net banking apps or banking apps. I will not say they are secure, much more secure. Let's not quantify them, but actually they are not the primary applications, or they are not the primary targets where the attacker generally try, because from the bank side or from the organization side there are ample amount of security things are in place. The place where the generally the consumers get targeted is where there are not regulated one from the government side. For that matter, you can say social media. Social media is regulated, but from the security perspective, I'm not sure how much across the globe how the government is keeping a regulations, or how much government is actually having the controls in place from the information security side. So actually, social media are first hotspot area where generally attacker targets the victim. I will not say, I will not use the word consumer, I'll say victim, because from the attacker perspective we all are victims because we get trapped. That's the first social media side. For that matter, you may talk about the Facebook, Instagram, Snapchats. For that matter, you talk about the WhatsApp. WhatsApp is a very simplest way to target the consumers like us. So that's the first area. The second area is actually coming and actually getting more and more worse. From attacker side, it is getting more and more developed, but from the consumer side, it is more and more worse. Is actually phishing. So a lot of people are using the email access, or sending an email, or maybe receiving an email from the advertising agency, or for that matter, the e-commerce brand or something. And I would like to actually give the message through this podcast. Actually, security is much more related to an awareness and human behavior. So the second hotspot area is actually something is too good for us, is where you got fall trapping.
Right. Okay.
When I say something is too good, sometimes we are just living a common life. Everyone's day is going well. We have a common activities to be done on a day-to-day life, and suddenly somebody is sending a message that this particular product, which is of 1 lakh rupees, is suddenly you are getting for 20,000 rupees or 10,000 rupees. And suddenly some good things happen, and we always say that, oh, God is so kind. Sometimes God is not kind. God is testing us in that case. So we fall trapped there.
Right.
Okay, so the second hotspot area is where phishing, all those links, when we click
Yeah.
without even reading, even if we read, we feel there is always a 1 or 2%. See, I'm not saying we are not smart.
Right.
We are smart enough to understand, we are educated people to understand what is good and what is wrong. But that particular two good things actually, and our greedy nature of a human being by default makes us to fall in that trap, and we actually click on that link, and that link is actually turn out to be suspicious.
So I think
That's a second hotspot area.
while many of you viewing this might be aware of the idea of phishing, uh, I mean, for those who don't, fishing is not our typical, going and fishing for fish which fishermen do, but it's something different. Would you like to explain the concept of fishing for
Yeah.
those who are not very familiar with that?
Yeah, so actually fishing is actually an art of taking the entire control of the data and asset of a consumer through a suspicious link. So actually there are various types of phishing. Now let me give an example. Instead of going too technical, I will actually give an example. Suppose you get an email, okay, that email actually says that you won a lottery of 2 lakh rupees, okay. So claim that lottery, please click on the link, and there is some link on it, okay. And you read the message properly, okay, but you have not verified certain the weak areas or something, and you actually clicked on that link. That link is actually not coming from the authorized person or organization. That link is actually coming from the attacker to fool you. And that link, when you click on that link, it asks us some kind of a password. Let's say for example you have an account in the bank. It asks us to actually give you the password and the username of the net banking. You actually put in because you are already being greedy in your mind. You already want that money in your mind, so maybe you just click on that. The moment you click, actually that turns out to be a trap, and your all entire money is debited without with your actually authorization, because you have authorized to give the user credential to the attacker. This is one way. Or otherwise you actually give your password and username to the attacker, who ultimately can log in and can get your all transaction done on behalf of you. So this is nowadays one of the way of doing actually phishing. The another way of doing is phishing is not through links. Actually it is also through calling someone and asking some kind of a UPI pin, or asking some kind of sending some kind of a transaction through UPI, or sending a message through WhatsApp and sending the links through WhatsApp, because that is the very easiest way, as I said, is my second hotspot area, where WhatsApp and everything is actually turn out to be a very weakest link of the attacker. So phishing is actually very, I will say, non-technical and sophisticated and easiest way to fool the attack victims in that sense.
So, I mean, if I may add at this point, see, on the one side, UPI and all these services have given us huge convenience, which is why all of us have adopted, right? From, when COVID happened, I mean, I think everybody was thankful of all these things because we didn't have to go and stand, in ATM queues to get cash. We were able to do transactions with all these things. And of course, now it's become absolutely common that we are using. But at the same time, because it's so convenient that with one click money can be transferred and received, it is also equally easy for money to be transferred to the wrong person, instead of the right person. So we understand that convenience comes at a potential cost. If there's a mistake made, it is equally earlier. If the money transfer used to be a big process, you write a check and it used to take 10 days to clear. If you discover that you made some mistake, maybe you could go to the bank and put a stop payment or something like that. Here, instantaneously, money is going. So that is, the convenience comes at a cost. That's something to realize. And just to, I mean, while Prathmesh already mentioned, but see what happens with this phishing is that when that attacker is asking for data, they are also making it look as if the screen is looking like a familiar banking screen or something like that, or some entity which you are familiar with. So it's very easy to create a display which is looking very familiar, although the actual, the URL, as they call it, the website or the link, may not be the real bank one. But because it looks so familiar, we feel that we are giving it to the right person. We are giving our username, password, and at the back end they are getting that information, which is why mistakes happen. Otherwise, you might think that how can I just give my bank password and to somebody else? But it happens because we don't realize that it's looking like a bank screen, but it's not coming from the bank. They've just created the visual to look like that. So that sort of thing happens, right?
So for that matter, just to add this to your actually point, let's say for example, the bank is let's say for example, River Bank. For example, I don't know this bank even exists. I'm just giving the example of River Bank. Okay, now you know the spelling of river. Okay, and actually the website of River Bank is actually river.com. Okay, so you expect that this particular email should come from something at the rate river.com. Okay, but if that actually attacker is trying, he might change the spelling of river to, he might make this double river, or sometimes he might make riverbank.com. Okay, now you should also be aware that what are the websites of the bank and
Correct.
where this email is coming from. These small things,
Yeah.
I'm not even asking to look at from the technical side, but at least check the spelling, at least check from the email, at least check the logo, at least check the content of the message. Multiple times the message does not have a good English language, does not it is not written like a bank mail, that because you are getting a lot of emails from the bank. Yeah. Email statements where you actually read these statements and you feel like it is very professionally written. Correct. So generally the phished email is not in that. So identifying phishing email is actually not a difficult task. It's very easy. Look at the spellings, look at the message, and you will actually you can actually, and the moment you get a 1% suspense on that particular email, just don't click it, nothing will happen. Right. It is always have not to do an action rather than to do an action and fall in trap. So I guess it is always a better one. Right. Even if it is a legitimate mail, you maximum what you can do is you delay certain actions which never cause you any kind of a penalty. But if you actually clicked on it, you will fall a trap. So right. Always better to take that action. Yeah.
So once I had put up some product for sale in one of these. It was, I think, OLX or something like that. There's a marketplace for people to sell, and lot of prospective buyers started contacting me, and then somebody started calling me and say, okay, you do this on UPI, and then I will make the transfer. So what are those? And I could sense that something was not I was not comfortable, so I didn't proceed. But they made it seem like they were a buyer and they were going to give me a good price for the product I had put up for sale. So sometimes you get trapped that, "Arey, I was hoping to get only so much, but this person is willing to give much more. So let me share." Now, what is that kind of fraud? What are they taking? Because UPI is the most common thing that most of our
So
people
the
use.
example which you have mentioned, somebody is calling you, is actually one of the way of doing phishing. Actually, it's called as phishing. Sorry, vishing. Actually, it's vishing is actually an attack where the attacker calls you on the phone and either demand for a money through any of these net banking or UPI mode. UPI is the most simplest mode, as you know. And actually, during the call, they actually pretend that to sell any particular product. Okay. So the simplest way nowadays, the government of India has done a lot of transformation. So you see actually a telecommunication industry, you actually get which kind of a call is a spam call or not spam call. So most of your actually efforts has been saved in not identifying that particular call as a spam call or not call, because your government is itself is identifying that you might have got a, might be getting a call and you're actually having the information on the mobile while getting a call, it is a spam call or not. All those call are 100% spam and you should not receive it. Even if you receive it, do not action on it by giving some kind of a personal information, though it be your name, though it be your email address, though it be your interest for that matter. Some people also ask what are your interests, what are your plannings. Don't give any information to that. The another way is actually to actually not fall in trap, actually is also the look at the numbers. The numbers are not standards. Number are generally not from our country. As you know, our country code is plus 91. So 91 is used for the number is coming actually from the India, and it's a 10-digit mobile number. But if generally attacker actually using some kind of different services, that your numbers are not legitimate, you also look at the number that is being coming from. And third, that I want to again repeat, and don't be greedy. So as I said, security is not only a problem of the organization, but security is a responsibility of all of us. So the greediness also traps you. Any product is actually you are getting in much more cheaper price. You're either having a right to ask, why are you selling us cheap? Okay, what is your benefit out of it? What is my benefit out of it? And what are the different payments modes? So basically, you have to exercise your right to ask, kind of thing, that what kind of, and any, as I said, if you fall suspicious, do not go for that particular matter. And anybody is calling you and asking the payment, is by default, you should say no, because all the good organization, good e-commerce selling platform, or for that matter any kind of a selling platform, does not ask the payment through call, and does not give you the QR code and ask to a payment. They have a very legitimate payment method through their applications, where you can actually link to your net banking, you can link to your UPI. Always use the authenticated mobile apps is my very advice to through this podcast.
Got it. There is this new kind of a crime that I keep reading about, and I personally feel I can't even understand what it could be, and I'm sure all of us have seen that, which is where somebody has got a digital arrest. And apparently, somebody has been under digital arrest for an extended period of time, and then finally has to pay up a lot of money. So I don't even understand what is this idea of digital arrest and how it happens and how can somebody get trapped. Because if somebody tries to reach me, I would think that, like, how would I believe that like that they are doing a digital arrest? But people seem to be falling for it. So can you throw some light on this new
Yeah,
kind of a
sure.
fraud that seems to be quite prevalent?
Yeah, so digital arrest basically is the method of capturing the personal data and information and trapping an individual through various means. For that matter, call is one of the prominent way of doing a digital arrest. So suppose, for example, you get a call. That person from the opposite side is actually telling you that the call is coming from the government or regulation, that your mobile number might be blocked or your bank account might be, for that example, blocked. See, a good bank or a organization or government entities never call you directly. Government always reach citizen through their official social media, all through, if you, for that matter, a financial matter, they will reach you through your bank. They will never call you and give you such demand which you put in trouble. We have to understand that any government is for the betterment of the people. Okay, so when you get any such call, is not only, definitely it is not legitimate. So digital arrest is actually trapping people. It's a kind of a social engineering only. But the only thing is that the individual who are actually scared of their superiors, for example, for our superiors are actually the banks or the platforms or the big giants company, or for that matter even regulators and governments, we fall trap. We assume that the actually call is coming from them. So you have to please understand this, calling is actually not a way by the superior authority. So that's the first thing. So digital arrest is one thing, and for the longer period of time, people are getting trapped because it's not that I have also seen some example where people are very well educated, have an understanding of the digital assets, technologies, and even the transformation. Still, they for an arrest, because all these attackers are actually not directly calling individual. They take some time to actually identify our background information. Now the question is where this background information is coming from, how they get the information, or that too detailed information about individual. Because I've seen a lot of people, not only the young age but even the older group, are having a very fond of social media. So they put all this information on the social media. For that matter, you post some photos, you post some pictures on some places. So basically they identify your lifestyle, they identify where you are coming from, they also identify your the family members and what are they doing, where are you doing job, because we often used to post the social media. And it is being observed through the research study that the people, those who are not on social media or very less on social media, the risk of their exposure of the data is very less as compared to the people those who are having the on the social media.
Absolutely, yeah.
So social medias are not wrong, but you have to make
Mm.
sure that at certain point of time you have to limit what kind of data and what kind of information you are giving. So digital arrest is just actually the attackers where they gather your social media data, they gather your background information, and based on that they call you and accurately trap you based on the information what they have.
Okay.
We find that information is related,
Mm.
and we also being surprised that how he got the information. If he has the information, that means that person is correct.
Right.
That means he is having the correct information.
Got it.
But we are not getting that he has done a lot of background study. We call it as a social engineering. In the technical terms, it is called as social engineering. And the attacks like the social engineering and all, there are no technical tools available 100%, because it is basically depend on the mindset of the human being,
Right.
or it is also depend on the lifestyle of the human being, which is being not controlled by any organization. It is controlled by the human being itself. The more and more we become aware of this, I guess we can avoid this digital arrest. It's just that the moment you get suspicious on those call or those links, just don't click it, just be safe.
Got it. So I think it's like, even in normal life, outside of all the digital and all, sometimes if our information is out and somebody can use that information because there is something to hide or something to worry, and somebody is exploiting that information to blackmail us in normal circumstances, when it comes to digital behavior, they are using that information to potentially do this so-called digital arrest and then extract a price for it. So of course the safe thing is that you don't have anything to hide, and you have a you're not committing crime which people know about and can trap you with. But I mean, other than that, I mean, I think what I'm hearing is that more than technology, more than tools, it's a lot to do with our own understanding and mental behavior, that I know this is something unusual or something funny, something out of the way, and I don't want to engage. I don't want to get into it. I'll stop and let it be, because it could easily be a trap. So that's something which I'm hearing here. So I'm going to shift a little bit. See, there is a lot of things which all of these examples where we are talking about, whether it's net banking, whether it is UPI, phishing, is where I am doing something and getting trapped. Right now, there are one or two areas which I have heard and which I feel where we may not be doing something specific in terms of clicking a link or doing something, and yet we are vulnerable. And one of those which I have heard and read about is the use of the CCTV cameras. A lot of times today, on account of security reasons, we have cameras inside our own homes, and we are pointing into the home because maybe when we are not at home, maybe we are traveling, we feel that we are keeping watchful eye on our home through our phone. So the information, or rather the visual of the home, is coming all the way onto our phone, and we feel safe that okay, everything is fine. But what is happening is that somewhere that information, the video information, is going whatever through the internet, through the cloud, and coming to our phone. Now, can it also go to somebody else? Right. So now, what is this? How does that happen? And how is it like a hack that somebody does? What is it?
It's actually very, very thoughtful and very real time question you asked, and I wanted to actually answer it. I will be taking some time to answer, because there are various cases that I have seen in my life on this CCTV monitoring and CCTV footage hack kind of thing. So I will answer that question. That yes, correct. Your question is more on the data privacy side rather than information security side. So basically, your privacy is compromised because of the where are you installing CCTV. So I see that from the day to day life, most of the children's they're having their senior parent who are comparatively senior citizen. So generally, if they are going for a job, or they are going for some out of India or something for the work, generally they install the CCTV camera just to monitor their parents, or maybe for that matter a child if they have. Okay, all this we have to understand that this is a good way from the usage perspective. We should always understand that the usage of the human life or the human behavior is actually inversely proportional to the security that we have. The more and more usage and utility that we actually take, it is actually we are compromising on the security. But again, by saying this, I have no mean to say that only perform security and don't utilize and don't actually use the technology. All those CCTV footages are stored on a centralized platform or server. We either call them as a cloud or depend on where have you taken the CCTV. So if that particular cloud is be getting hacked, okay, it might be possible that attacker will have those kind of a CCTV footage, which attacker might use to actually you can say blackmail you, or you might call it through digital arrest also you can. So this is actually linked, actually kind of a scenario which you're talking about. I would like to actually share one small incident. Okay, I have heard in the one of our organization where I was not working. I am not even related, but I heard this from the social media platform that one of the organization has caught ransomware attack, and of course the attacker has demanded some kind of a money, ransom money. There was a third day of the organization, and in fact entire assets of the organizations were compromised. All the data was with the attacker, and they were actually figuring out how to get that data, how to make sure that our systems and assets are in place. On the third day, they have released the real time CCTV footage of the organization where employees were working, and employees got shocked. I mean, for example, 10 o'clock I actually came to office, and actually I'm doing some work on my laptop and in the company, and after 10:30 the attacker releases some kind of a real time video on the social media.
Wow.
So this is what kind of a shock to that organization, that see this have this kind of a real time data.
True.
That means you can imagine it, if they have the CCTV data, they definitely have the customer data with
Correct,
which
correct,
they have done the
absolutely.
ransomware attack. I feel that basically the attacker was actually pressurizing the organization to give the ransom.
Right.
So just to answer this question, it's nothing to harm with CCTV, but wherever you are installing CCTV has to be in the public areas of the house, not on the personal bedrooms or something. That's the first my
Of course.
very advice to the through this podcast. Second, when you should also verify and regularly review the CCTV vendors that you are taking from. Where are they storing data? See, you are the customers of them. So whenever you are installing CCTV, your job is also to look at the services that they are providing, the data that they are taking care of, and how your data is getting protected. So when you are having a good technology use, you should also have a good technology and responsible use of the technology at the same time. So answer to your question in one line, that please make sure when you are having or using a CCTV camera, considering it is a privacy breach, you should actually install a CCTV camera only when it is needed, and only the place where it is needed.
Perfect.
That's it.
Yeah. So yeah, I think again, it's boiling down to convenience that we want, which can also correspondingly generate a compromise of sorts or a risk of sorts. So it always is a trade-off, which is which we have to keep in mind. And I mean, I think very good advice that don't overdo it or keep it in only in the areas which you really feel necessary.
Yeah.
And also, I think trustworthy partners of the CCTV, wherever the servers or wherever they are kept. So we can only do our best, and hopefully that's good enough for us to not face an attack. One last part, which again is a big issue. Again, not so much to do with our action in the sense of making clicking a wrong link or something, but there's also this, especially when we live in times of terror and whatnot. Uh, there is a thought that if you have a Wi-Fi router at home and it has, of course, a password, but somebody who's little outside your home, somebody just outside your door or something, can see the router, but if they don't have a password, they can't access. But if they have one and they access your router and your network, what is the risk for you? I mean, besides the fact that they may use your bandwidth for your internet connection, but is there a bigger harm that can they do something which becomes your responsibility or something that comes on your head?
So yes, right question again. It's a very bigger risk actually, provided that the person who is using your Wi-Fi, using the credential which is set by you, is actually technical savvy. Okay. For a normal person who use some kind of a third party tool to identify your password and use your password as a Wi-Fi password and use your Wi-Fi, they might not be ham. So there are various types of attacker also, but I am talking about the attacker which is more technical in nature. So you please understand that when you are using Wi-Fi, when you say I'm using a Wi-Fi, actually you are using communication and transferring the data through the Wi-Fi, and that actually goes to the public network. Depend on which website, which social media network you are using it. So actually they may have the information of all the communication that you do. Basically all your communication can also be intercepted by the person who is using your Wi-Fi. It is possible. But having said that, I also have a good remedy for that. So if, see, generally you have the Wi-Fi for the service provider. Either the service provider is a local service provider, or maybe a big giants companies like Airtel, Vodafone, or for that matter, some of the people are also having the government regulatory entity, for example, MTNL, BSNL, all those things. Please, when they are installing the Wi-Fi at your home, ask them that you should always do a setting to connect to your home Wi-Fi to the IP addresses or the addresses of your devices. So you can limit the devices. So if, for example, if at this particular home I have decided to install the Wi-Fi, then maybe I can tell that I will be only using 3 to 4 devices. Okay, not more than that. Maybe you can only have a space for 3 to 4 devices. So only those devices addresses or digital addresses can be added into the Wi-Fi portal, so that any person, even if he is trying to use your Wi-Fi, he is not allowed to use, because that device limit will be reached. So it is possible to use, or even from that matter, not service provider, if you are a technical savvy, you can please make that arrangement. And any person you want to explicitly give the credential, maybe you can limit extend that particular limit for that particular time and give. So by doing this, you are not actually allowing a person to enter into the use your Wi-Fi credentials. That's always a better one. And last but not least, it is not about your home Wi-Fi, but when you also go outside. For example, I see many people going to malls, shopping malls, or for that matter, the airport. Okay, always we get trapped onto the free Wi-Fi. Should not use it. Okay, for Airtel also, for that matter, should not use it. But generally, because free Wi-Fi's are generally or not hosted or not their data when you are transferring to their Wi-Fi is not encrypted, meaning that they are not secure actually, and therefore you should not use public Wi-Fi. Either use your personal mobile phone Wi-Fi which you have taken the plan for, or go home and communicate. But you should never use the public Wi-Fi. Is my advice to this podcast.
Right. So just one point in this connection of Wi-Fi, like while you correctly suggested that there could be a privacy invasion to access and intercept our communication. I'm worried about one different thing though, that somebody accessing our Wi-Fi router and maybe then, let's say, potentially sending a threat mail or something like that to government, or like airport or something, the terrorism threat, and then going away. But when the police traces it back, it traces to our IP address, our home, and in many ways, then it can be trouble for us, that they may hold us responsible because it has come from there. And as soon as it gets into the terrorism, I mean, the kind of challenge with working with the police or something is of a different kind altogether.
Correct.
So that is also a big risk.
That is a big risk, but the use case which you are telling me is actually not through the Wi-Fi. That means that attacker is using your Wi-Fi and sending a mail on behalf of you basically, or maybe communicating the information on behalf of you. The one of the you can say a fundamental example of this case. This is possible, but not through the Wi-Fi. Maybe basically generally people when they are opening any website and creating their account and using their account for that matter, they forget to log out from the systems or the tools. For example, very important is the mobile banking applications.
Right.
Okay, your email, the personal email which you are using for communication to your, let's say for example, government, or for example your employer, or your all the personal sensitive information is there on the email. You forget to log out that. Okay, then you are using the very unsafe or unsecured browser at your laptop, at that matter. You're not installing the antivirus software at your laptop, so that it also. So basically I will say, I will use the word, the basic cyber hygiene practices,
Right.
that you have to keep, and the use case which you're talking about, if they get an access of your email or your application, it is a high chances that they might send an email,
Mm.
and
Yeah.
that you get a follow up. Just
Sure.
last but not least, I heard when I went to industry, this is a very common use case. Generally, information security team is doing. We always tell employees to lock the
Mm.
laptops, lock your screens.
Mm.
Okay, when you are going for a lunch or
Mm.
something. And there are many people, okay, which are non-information security background. They generally just do their work and just go
Mm.
for a lunch or chit chat
Mm.
with their friend. Their screens are unattended,
Right.
or their mobile screens or maybe laptop screens are not locked out.
Yeah.
What we used to do, we used to actually open their mail, and I used to actually send a mail to all friends that, hey, there is a biryani party from tomorrow from my side, so please come.
Okay.
So actually, I mean, this is sounds like a funny and kiddish, but this is
Yeah.
actually a lesson
Yeah.
that if we are sending this message,
Right.
I can also send an email from that
Right. Right.
particular
Right.
employee that I am resigning from the organization. I am not interested.
Yeah. Yeah.
So anything can happen.
True. True.
You
True.
cannot actually quantify the
Yes.
amount of
Yes.
the thing actually happens. So please have that acceptable use, and basic
Absolutely.
cyber hygiene practice
Absolutely.
has to be followed.
Absolutely. Got it.
Thank you.
So, I mean, like I said at the outset, this subject is so deep, and I think we might have, with a very decent conversation, we have still only touched the surface because it's so deep and there is so many things to know. But having said that, I think it is a good introduction. And if I had to kind of sort of summarize, is that it's largely about personal behavior, personal understanding of vulnerability and not getting trapped. Convenience comes at a cost. So when you have a convenience and you can instantaneously transfer money, instantaneously have CCTV coming from your home to wherever you are in the world, there is a potential flip side to it, a risk associated. So be aware of that. Be aware of somebody trying to give you something which is too good to be true,
Right.
because it's very rarely that a too good to be true is, like they say, there's no free lunch. In the same way, something which is too good to be true is probably not the right thing. And so those are the more important thing that we can control as users. Beyond that, at the very beginning, Prathmesh told us that we are not likely to feel 100% safe ever, because it's a cat and mouse game. There is, like in earlier days when there was antivirus, a new virus will come, antivirus company will come up with a fix, another new virus will come, and that chain goes on. It's much the same when it comes to risks with digital crime and cyber attacks and data issues and privacy invasion. It's all that. So let's do what we can do our side, from our side, in terms of being little safe about what we click, what we use digital for, and try to follow the best practices, and maybe read a little more about the kind of areas which are where the risk is there, and maybe not expose very large number of your account balances, or like if you had to use UPI, keep a separate account where the number amount is small, so your outside risk is that much. You don't expose your entire big bank balances to that, and those kinds of best practices might be useful as a start. But this is a ongoing conversation. This is just the first one. Hopefully we might in time do a more in-depth one. But thank you so much, Prathmesh, for
Thank you so
taking out
much.
the time and doing this conversation. And I mean, really appreciate some of the very important fundamental thoughts that you have shared. You have any last thoughts before we wind up with
Yeah,
this?
yeah. So I would not, brief my discussion. Only three pointers that I would like to give to all the listeners of this podcast. The first is, as you rightly said, don't give the data unnecessarily when it is not needed.
Right.
That's the first very important, a takeaway that I would like to give to these listeners of this podcast. That's the first message. Second, follow the basic cyber hygiene practices at the time to time given by your bank, given by the e-commerce platform, for that matter, government. And I would always say, listen to your, the tech savvy people, those who are talking to. That's the second thing. Cyber hygiene practices. That's the first thing. And the third thing, do not use any kind of untrusted entities and
Right.
technologies which you have, and don't fall into the greediness. So that's the third message that I would like to give. I'm sure if you actually follow the three messages throughout your life, okay, I'm sure that you will actually not fall in trap. The risk of data breach or your data will be shared by the unwanted entities will be very, very, very less, and you will actually not fall in trap. So that's
Okay.
the only three
Okay.
messages that I would like to give.
Okay.
Thank you.
Thank you so much. So while at one level I was feeling that, while I was listening, I was also feeling fear that there is no safety. But at least at the end, Prathmesh has given us some hope that yes, if we follow some fundamental best practices, hopefully we will stay as safe as we can in this connected world. So with that, again, once more, thanking Prathmesh for taking the time out and sharing all these insights. Thank you, and we'll be back with the next episode.
Thank you.
Thank you.